Let's go to those New York optometric phone lines now. Bring in guest one of the program. It's Andrew Albert, Cityofbasketballlove.com. He's covering the LaSalle Butler game tonight in Philadelphia. We'll get to that later on, but first of all, let's bring him in. Hey, Andrew, what's up, buddy?
How's it going, Mike? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Let's start, obviously, with one of the Philly teams. Syracuse beats. They hosted Louisville last night, beat Louisville, and they've got Syracuse coming up on Saturday. Last night was one of those wild nip-and-tuck, back-and-forth type games, a slugfest, very physical. When did you think Nova was going to win that game?
You know, when I saw Muftahiru hit that jumper from the baseline, I really had that feeling for Nova because when they string buckets together, they really can't be stopped at that point. I mean, and that's a big win because it's very few and far between that they actually string buckets together. But they're really impressive last night. I mean, they got after it on the glass. They had assists on their baskets. They had 15 assists on their 22 made field goals, which is something that they haven't really been doing this year. And, I mean, they beat a very good team in Louisville, but Louisville really did look out of it last night.
One thing I think at the beginning of the year that I heard from a lot of people, and I have to also say that I felt this way, that Villanova almost looked like they were in rebuilding mode to a certain extent. They were, you know, the top-heavy guards and playmaking-type guys weren't there. I mean, the days of Allen Ray were gone, and Scotty Reynolds, they're so far removed from those days. And yet, here's Villanova all of a sudden now with a 12-7 record, starting to play a little bit better. Signature win against Louisville. You know, they've played some clubs tough. I know they lost to Columbia in the beginning of the year, but this is still a better team now than they were. So I ask you this question. Are they right now, Andrew, closer to rebuilding mode under Jay Wright at this time, or are they closer to getting near a bubble spot for the tournament?
You know, they're close to the bubble spot as of this point. I mean, I saw Joel Minardi last night had them as his first four out, which is just really because they were nowhere close before this game. I mean, this Louisville win really propelled them to where they wanted to be at the beginning of the season. I mean, they bring in their freshman guard, Ryan Arcidiacono. He's been outstanding for them, but the team has gone how he's gone through the year. If he's playing well, if he's making his shots, the team really steps up their game to go around him, and he seems to be that freshman leader. They really don't see that often, but can really help a squad like Villanova. I mean, they have the pieces there. Yes, they do. They are older, and they are rebuilding, but this year could be their one shot for a while. I mean, they did bring in Tony Chenault from Wake Forest, and he really has helped them. He played fantastic defense on Peyton Siva towards the end of the game last night, but you never know where he's going to be offensively. He's only averaging around 4 or 5 points a game off the bench, but, I mean, this Villanova squad did give the city of Philadelphia a glimpse of light at the end of the tunnel for them.
We're talking with Andrew Albert, Cityofbasketballlove.com. Check it out on Philly Basketball. Interview brought to you by Pioneer Warehousing and Distribution. Syracuse Nova, there's a few days in between games. For SU, they played on Monday. They don't play again until Saturday, and Nova now has to wait a little bit as well. Do you like a little bit of time here for Nova to get recouped against a team like Louisville, a team that plays that fast pace, or do you think it's better for that club to turn right around in a couple days and face Syracuse?
You know, facing Syracuse, they can use the time to prepare. I mean, it is a great win over Louisville, but you still have to prepare for Syracuse very thoroughly. Obviously, Syracuse won the first matchup up at the Carrier Dome, which was really a grind from the beginning. It was a great game to watch, but on Saturday morning, they can use the extra days off, especially because it's 11 a.m. start, which really is bizarre to me, but we'll probably get there at some point. But Syracuse provides just so much. They have the depth. I mean, obviously not James Sutherland anymore, but they're just such a fantastic squad that Villanova really can use all the time to prepare and get their legs back under them after last night.
Since January 12th, which wasn't, that long ago, where has Villanova improved, do you think, the most where they can have a shot at Syracuse on that Saturday this weekend, which is almost like a brunch and basketball type situation?
That it is, but, before this Louisville game, they hadn't improved at all. I mean, they got blown out at Pittsburgh and lost a close game at Providence.
Right.
So they really hadn't been playing very well before this Louisville win, which is why it makes it that much greater of a win, because no one expected it. No one expected them to Louisville to come in and kind of lay an egg at Villanova and give them the confidence that they have heading into 2 more tough games. They got Notre Dame after Syracuse. So, I mean, they were in a stretch where they could have lost 6 games in a row, and they really needed that Louisville win to kind of break up the treacherous schedule that is the Big East. But, I mean, they had Syracuse, Pitt, Providence, Louisville, Syracuse, Notre Dame. That's just a brutal schedule. I don't care what conference you're in. I don't care who you are. That is just absolutely brutal.
Andrew, the population in Philadelphia, I mean, they love their basketball, great history, even with the LaSalles and the Temples and Joes. We know all about Nova certainly as well, but I'm curious to know, I mean, do basketball fans really start thinking now, have they talked a lot down in Philadelphia about this Syracuse-Nova Big East thing is over after Saturday? I mean, has that gotten a lot of attention? Are basketball fans and purists sad about it? I mean, what's the general feeling, if any, down there about this being the last regular season Big East matchup between the two?
Yeah, obviously it's upsetting everyone, but I still have that feeling that Villanova and Syracuse will continue to play simply because Jim Boeheim loves to recruit in Philadelphia. I mean, look at Deion Waiters, Scoop Jardine, and now Rakeem Christmas from Philly. All those guys, it's like a pipeline right up to Syracuse. And I think Boeheim really wants to keep that kind of communication open. But, obviously people are sad about it. It's a fantastic rivalry, especially from probably 08 to 11 was the most heated that you'll ever see two Big East teams that aren't Syracuse and Georgetown. You know what I mean? So it is sad, but I think that they're still going to play at some point.
Couple more for Andrew Albert. Cityofbasketballlove.com covers all the Philly hoops teams. We'll get to the LaSalle Butler game he's covering tonight. Jay Wright is really a wonderful coach. I mean, he's shown it. He recruits to his program very well. He's well respected. Where is he in your line of coaches in the country? Is he a top 10-ish guy? I mean, you're around him a lot. Where is he? What number does he crack for you on the national scale?
I wouldn't put him so far as the top 10, but he is fantastic. I would probably go top 25, just because they have had a couple down years. I'm not going to hold that against him, obviously. I mean, the level of players that have come in hasn't been, Scotty Reynolds, but he's still a fantastic coach. You see, he motivates his players. They want to play for him, and that's almost half the battle. If players quit on you, you're not. I mean, you saw with the Eagles this year. I mean, to bring in pro sports, they quit on Eddie Reed. And everyone was more upset about that. I mean, Jay Wright always has his players out there ready to play. They play inspired basketball, and he game plans very well for different teams. You can see it. But I mean, I'm going to go. Obviously, Jim Boeheim is one of the best game planners the game has ever seen. So it's tough comparisons here.
Why does he work for Villanova, though? Why is Jay Wright perfect for Villanova?
Just his attitude. I mean, he has that edginess about him. But he respects everyone that he's with. I mean, even with the media, he's very respectful in his press conferences. I've never seen him get outstandingly upset at anyone in the media like Boeheim does. But, I mean, just the mix between the respect and still the intensity on the court. He seems to be able to separate that on the court, off the court very well, which bodes well with his players.
We're talking with Andrew Albert, Cityofbasketballlove.com. Interview brought to you by Pioneer Warehousing and Distribution. A couple more for you, Andrew. I'll let you go. You're covering LaSalle and Butler tonight, and LaSalle is better than I thought. They're 12-5, 2-2 in the A-10. We know all about Butler. That's where I want to focus. How much of an impact do you think they've already had on the A-10? You cover a bunch of teams in the A-10. You cover Joe's. You cover Temple, LaSalle down there as well. Butler and VCU all of a sudden changed the face of this league. Now all of a sudden these clubs like LaSalle have to add one more really difficult game in Butler and VCU. In fact, LaSalle's got them back-to-back. Talk a little bit about that impact of those two teams, because I'm a Bonaventure grad, and I saw a lot of A-10 basketball myself, but those two clubs, two teams that a lot of people might also think are Final Four contenders, they've really changed the shape of that league.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the depth in the A-10 is second to none this year. I mean, there's 16 teams, the biggest in league history. And at the beginning of the season, at A-10 Media Day, I was talking to Brad Stevens, and he said that legitimately 8 or 9 teams have a legitimate shot at making the NCAA tournament this year out of the A-10, which is just absolutely outstanding. I mean, you don't see that from a mid-major ever. So in adding VCU as well, I mean, their Havoc defense, Smart, has done fantastic things with them. Obviously, the Final Four trips, and Butler with their Final Four trips and the national championship trips, beating Syracuse in the Elite Eight there. But, I mean, Butler is a very fantastic team, even without Rodney Clark. LaSalle's still going to have to stop the likes of Andrew Jones tonight. I mean, or Andrew Smith, which is still very tough. I mean, we have a preview up at cityofbasketballlove.com. Follow us on Twitter at hooplove215. But it's going to be a fantastic stretch down the A-10 towards the end of the season, the A-10 tournament this year in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, which is just going to be fantastic for the league. And it gives the league more national exposure than it has. I mean, it was already a very competitive league. I mean, you saw St. Bonaventure beat Temple. I was at the Temple game on Saturday when St. Bonaventure came out and just absolutely beat them. Temple didn't do that much wrong. They still shot 40% from the field. St. Bonaventure just beat them, and they were a team that were 0-3 in the A-10. So the depth top to bottom is outstanding this year.
Yeah, a lot of back and forth in college basketball for sure, and everybody here in this area knows all about that regional semi with Butler and Syracuse. Final question here for you, Andrew. Back to Syracuse and Nova this Saturday. If there's one thing that you could look at, and I know you have to do many things to win a college basketball game, especially at this level, but what's the absolute one thing that Villanova has to do or needs on Saturday to give SU a run or beat them, much like they did last night to a Louisville team in Philly?
They need to pound the ball inside. Against Syracuse in the first game, Mukhtar had 11 points, 14 rebounds, which was a fantastic game for him, but he only took 6 shots. So, I mean, they need to get the ball inside, which opens out the kick out for Arcidiacono, because in the games where he has shot poorly, it seems that there's no really inside-outside game. It's more of just keep the ball on the outside, end up taking a bad three that you missed. I mean, Arcidiacono has the ability. He went off for 32 already this year, so he has the ability to make the shots if he's open. So I looked at Javon Pinkston and Mukhtar to really be the anchors against Syracuse, but, I mean, it's much easier said than done against even Ike Heath has been playing very well for the Orange, and Rakeem Christmas, obviously. And DeJuan Coleman, I mean, gave him 15 minutes in the game against Villanova the first time. So, I mean, Syracuse is just so deep. It's going to be a fantastic game. I still think Syracuse pulls it out, but it might be a nail-biter. You never know.
That's true. You never do know. Andrew Elber, cityofbasketballlove.com. Check out the website. Thanks for your time, bud. Enjoy the game tonight with LaSalle Butler.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All righty. And that interview with Andrew brought to you by Pioneer Warehousing and Distribution. Do you have a growing business? Are you finding it difficult to keep up with the demand of your customers? Do you wish you had more time to